We are moving on to episode 25 of the 52 Weeks of Reefing. This one called Going Beyond Filter Socks, the Thieling Roller Mat.
You know what's funny is this is 2015. I'm pretty certain this is the first experience with a roller mat that we ever had.
Yeah, you just came back from Interzoo after finding it, didn't you?
Hey, look what I found.
Yeah.
And I'd seen it, I think it's called a Genesis or something, a long time before that. It had like this little water wheel. It was really designed for ponds more than anything because it was so huge. It had a bunch of metal parts and stuff on it. But eventually, Thieling made this very similar version, but instead it used a flow switch and was way easier to install. I say easier loosely, but easier than the Genesis. Okay, so
Or belief.
that was our first experience with that roller mat is like 2015. So what do we know now?
Here's where we are today with our core belief. And we're going to have to say this twice, maybe even 3 times. Manual fleece rollers are the future.
Manual fleece rollers are the future, right? Okay,
People.
You're going to hear
Manual
this.
fleece rollers are the future.
Filter socks should be dead to all of us.
Dead to
and
all
I'll tell
of
you
us.
why. You're going to, by the end of this, I think you're going to agree.
Yeah. Somebody give me a manual fleece roller.
And the only reason I say manual is because electrical ones are presumably much more expensive. But the fleece roller, if you did it manually, could probably be about the same cost as the filter socks. So there's going to be a lot of advantages. Think about it for a second.
Oh, man. This is a big one.
All right, so what matters most is fleece material is the best for people that know they overfeed, capture it whole. And by fleece material, I mean it could be fleece on the roller, it could be fleece in a filter sock, it can be anything. But
it's mechanical filtration.
if you feed a lot, the best way, like an overfeed, by the way, is the best solution for that is fleece or filter socks in rolls or socks. And the reason I say that is because capture it whole.
I mean, it has no chance to break down. And you're pulling it out in real time before it even gets the chance. Bam, easy peasy.
Okay, so the answer to that is, well, why are you overfeeding then? Well, that's true, man, but I don't care. Some people just enjoy feeding their pets, right?
Yeah.
And that is, they like overfeeding, whatever it is. And the only thing they need to do is then compensate for the filtration to fit that. If you ask me, I would guide you probably to feed as much as the animals need, not as much as you need.
Yes.
But if I can't get past that, there is a different solution. And even for normal people, still, no matter what you do, you will always have to feed more than the animal needs to make sure that it gets it. You know, unless you're like, there's some probably super elaborate way where that statement isn't true. But for vast majority of people,
and you watch it every time you feed. Stuff goes everywhere. How many of those did you count and follow to make sure that they actually went into a fish's mouth?
Yeah, when you watch it in the roller, man, I mean, you watch it literally roll the shrimps right out.
There it is.
The little mice and shrimps are rolled right out. The pellet foods that don't get eaten rolled right out.
Yeah.
You can see all the broken down food and poo rolled right out. Same thing with your filter sock. When you pull the filter sock and you clean it, all the brown poo and shrimps and all this stuff, man, gone.
Yeah.
You're pulling it right out of the tank. So the best way to manage the fact that you may like to feed more than you should is fleece material, whether it be socks or rolls.
Yes. And then on the front of socks, we're talking about what matters most when it comes to filter socks and fleece rollers. Filter socks changed every 3 days is the sweet spot. Every 3 days.
So we didn't get a lot of advantage out of changing them every day. We didn't get a lot of advantage changing. I mean, it was a little bit, but like not huge gains.
I mean, for my own personal time, that was a net loss.
Yeah. Every 2 days, a little bit of gain. But after 3 is where the stuff started to rot and then it just turned into nitrate and phosphate in the tank. And so if you leave the filter socks in there more than 3 days, all it's really doing is capturing those turds and the broken down food or the food holes or the shrimp holes and just rotting in there. It's just turning nitrate and phosphate in there and you're just leaving it in there. I mean, there might be other reasons you have it in there to like pull out little particulates, the visual pieces of floaties around the tank, but it like know full well that you're just letting all of it rot in there, and maybe something else will catch it later on, but this is not the most effective way. If if you leave the fleece in there for more than 3 days, expect higher nitrate and phosphate levels.
This is why a manual fleece roller is so attractive to me. It's that I am 100% more likely to walk by, give the thing a little turn like this every 3 days than I am to pull the socks out, get my new ones, put them back in, go soak these ones, then a day later go wash them in the tub and make sure that I don't want soaps on there and all. They're not disposable because they're too expensive. So, man, manual fleece roller is the future.
So, like, a lot of people think about it like, oh, there'll be like a little crank or something on this thing, and maybe that's true.
Could.
But, like, you can also just have a big wheel where it rolls up and just grab the wheel and just kind of, one turn, done.
Tons of,
So, am I willing to go in the sump and twice a week, grab it and just pull 6 inches out in 2.5 seconds?
Sign me up.
Oh, for sure.
Sign me up.
And then am I happy that I don't have to go buy all of these socks and then put all of those socks and stuff in my laundry and clean them, or worse yet, just continually buy them over and over again? And they're not particularly cheap when you buy. If you're buying
them to be disposable, not cheap.
Yeah, and like I gotta tell you that my wife is not super happy about putting bristle worms in the wash machine. So you better do that when she's not looking.
And I don't want to go spend for a mini wash machine, $300-$500 for a mini wash machine just for my filter socks.
No. Like, and so like if you can make it like automated, don't get me wrong. It's just that those things that sump costs $1,000, right? So like if you got $1,000 for sure, that's the way to go. It automatically just rolls the turds out in real time. But if it's not, man, like dude, just there's zero chance you're going to see me twice a week crawling underneath the tank, pulling all the socks out.
I hate it.
Going and finding some place where they're not going to mold or get stinky.
I hate it.
You know, whatever. Shove those new ones back in there and maintain it.
Dead to me.
I'd rather buy a better filter. I'd rather buy a refugium light. I'd rather get a better skimmer. I'd rather do just about anything in the known to man than like go monkey around with that. But I'm 100% willing to go throw a little wheel. Yep, cranky. Wheelie.
I'm gonna be a cranky guy. If you come out with one with crank, that's mine.
The crank is Randy's version. Either one, man. It really doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But like, I think that is the future. I don't even know. Like, once you say it out loud, like, it shouldn't be any more expensive. Like the design of the plastic, it's just a rod with a couple of rolls on it, and you fill it up. Like, what the sump should cost like $50 more maybe, and then you'll never ever be down there doing all this garbage.
Yeah. Well, when you, I mean, if we're talking, and that's why manual, because when you start to add in the mechanics and the float switches and the different things, the motors and things like that, that just increases that cost because there's a lot more to it.
You know, and like I think what comes to cost is like the only like last holdout. It would be like, well, is the fleece roll more or less expensive than maintaining my filter socks?
I think
you'd be surprised to find out how much it actually costs to run your wash machine twice. You know, one with bleach and then one in a rinse cycle, electricity and all that stuff.
That's the way I did it.
I think you'd be surprised how much it costs to replace all the filter socks as you're buying them and washing them. And I think you'd be surprised how inefficient they get over time as you just keep loosening the material as you wash them every time because they're not the same after the single wash.
That's true.
I think even if you didn't give anything to your own time and your own time was not even part of the equation, it's just minuscule difference. I think. The whole that's so like once you say that out loud, like why the hell do these things don't exist in in scale? And I don't know. There you go. Next one.
What also matters most is that filter socks are likely nutrient factories if you don't change them. We did a BRStv Investigates experiment on, like we were talking about the results, changing them every day, changing them every 2 days, changing them every 3 days, so on and so on and so on. And the further you got past 3 days, the more and more nitrates and phosphates came out.
Nutrient factory isn't 100% true.
Producing more, right?
Like the amount of nitrogen and phosphorus is 100% dictated to how much nitrogen and phosphorus you add to the tank via foods, right?
Yep.
Or additives, I guess. But here's why it will likely create, if you don't change these things out, create more nitrogen and phosphorus in your tank, is because the filter socks are going to capture all those little particulate foods, the broken down pellets and all the other stuff. And a lot of it's just going to degrade down into nitrogen and phosphorus inside that sock. Yep. Some of it will be removed and the protein skimmer and stuff will pick it up. But what you're really doing is actually decreasing the efficiency of every filter that comes after those filter socks, because the skimmer no longer has the ability to pull out the little broken down bits of pellet food. And the skimmer will absolutely do that. It's not just broken down protein
turn into
chains.
mush and stuff like that.
Yeah, like it'll
soft.
We've all seen you can see, like, after you feed, like the broken down bits of pellet food that, like, it definitely removes. It doesn't have to be all the way down to a protein chain, you know?
Yep.
And so, like, the filter socks, if you don't change them out, I think it's fair to call it a nitrate factory, even though it's not, like, technically adding more nitrogen or phosphorus to the tank. It is going to result in higher nitrogen, nitrate, and phosphate levels in the tank if you don't change them out and just let everything rot in there.
Yep.
I will also say that I think this is in here about the skimmer somewhere.
Well, we can start saving money on skimmers and buying smaller ones for our tanks rather than bigger ones because we have an effective filter roller.
Yeah, like you could have, like, that's a good point, actually. I didn't think about it that way. Is if you spent $200 less on the skimmer, you got, a smaller skimmer.
Manual filter roller instead.
Yeah, and the filter roller is, like, easier to maintain.
Yeah.
If you go buy, like, a Theline, like, compact roller mat, like, it just rolls the turds right out and you don't have to do anything.
Yep.
Skimmer, you're cleaning it, maintaining it, tuning it,
Pull it out every year for full maintenance, clean the pump.
Yeah, but what you've seen over and over again is if you have a really good mechanical filtration, being fleece of some kind, filter sock, manual, or fleece rolls, you don't need as big of a skimmer. In fact, the skimmer won't work anymore.
And Royal Exclusive told you that very same thing.
In fact, I implore everybody out there that either doubts this or wants to confirm it, go pull out your filter socks out of your system and then watch how much better the protein skimmer performs without them. You might be really surprised. So check it out. Share your comments and stuff with us because everybody else wants to see as well. I will say also wider. Okay, so fleece is the solution.
Yep.
Manual or automated, doesn't matter. This is the future of sump design. And this is another one of those things where the reason it will be the future of sump design is if all of you agree and then demand it out of the manufacturers and start buying those solutions, they will start creating them.
Yeah.
If you don't ask for it, they won't make it.
You're stuck with filter socks forever.
Yep. Then we'll just have filter socks forever. So be it. Yes. I will also say that wider fleece is better.
Wider is better. Pontiac commercial.
Yep. Wider fleece is definitely better, meaning like in many of the, like, built into the sumps, the fleece may be 1.5 feet wide or a foot wide.
Yeah, the Trigger Systems ones, your Royal Exclusive one, when you go look at it, you're like, man, this has got to be way more effective than something that's a strip like this.
Well, so what it is like if I got a big square, this big, well, it will last about 5 times as long as a square this big, and so you'll see a lot of the roller mats out there now these days, or the fleece materials, they might be only 2-inch strips.
Yeah, I've seen that. Yeah,
like really, really tiny, and like don't be surprised if this didn't really solve your problem. You're changing out rolls every single week now. Yeah, you just traded one problem for a different problem.
If you quadrupled the size of that thing, you'd probably quadruple the amount of time in between changing the rolls out.
Yeah, and so for that reason, like, these things are way, way, way better when they're incorporated into the design of the sump than all of the aftermarket versions of it that are like trying to retrofit a sump to be able to use these things. And I hate to say that because nobody wants to replace their sump. Not a single person on the planet really wants to do that.
We talked about that in the sump episode. This is one of the hardest things to replace after it's in place.
I don't know how to address that, but it's still fact. So in that spirit, wider fleece is better. Most of the aftermarket ones are pretty narrow, and the ones built in the sumps are generally pretty wide, and they perform a lot better.
That's the one I would choose. Another thing that matters most when it comes beyond filter socks is adjustable water height is better. And these, you look at these prefab or these ones that are built into the sumps, like your trigger systems, like the Royal Exclusive that you have, the Dreambox one. These are adjustable filters. I can increase the water height, meaning more paper is exposed for a longer period of time, probably saving me more time on my roll because it's not all just going out in one big failed swoop. So if I want to filter faster, or pull the detritus and the food and everything, all the particulates out faster, I can lower the water level, less paper exposed, meaning it gets clogged faster, and it's just constantly pushing itself out.
So the faster it clogs, the faster we'll remove it from the tank.
Right.
If you want it to rot a little bit, like maybe you want some nitrate and phosphate in the tank, you're having a problem.
There you go.
Not having enough. Well, you can let it rot. So I think the easiest way to think about it is, imagine if this was the exposed area of the paper. This will clog, fairly fast. So if the water level in the filter is only this high, this will clog fairly fast. The water level will go up, float switch will hit, and then we'll roll up some new paper. Well, what if we wanted to not use up as much paper and we're not really having problems with nitrate and phosphate? Let's expose, add twice as much paper. Okay. Now the water level will probably take 2 to 3 times as long before it clogs this filter and what makes the water level go up, causing it to roll some more out. But what if we really want to save a lot of paper and nitrate and phosphate, all the rest of our filters? Well, now let's have it use the full sheet. Water level's up here, right? This will take a really long time. You'll probably only roll it up once in a day, ish. Every couple days maybe. In fact, what it really will often do is just expose a couple inches. And so the rest of it will stay in the water and it'll expose a couple inches. That gets clogged, slowly inches its way out of the tank. So this is now an adjustable performance filter, based on the fact of the water height. So the best solutions for the Fleece filters will definitely allow you to change the water height in there.
Yeah, absolutely. I love an adjustable filter. Another thing that matters most, we kind of hit on this one a little bit, but built into the sump is better.
It's true. After that, I will say the Thieling Compact is our favorite here.
Yeah,
people ask all the time.
Yeah, 750 XXL runs it. And I think a lot of the, it has a 500 gallon per hour around there, 500 gallon per hour max flow rate through it to be utilized. But when you think about what we've learned about times turnover in the sump, 500 gallon per hour covers a lot of tank sizes.
There's a lot of these aftermarket things, and some of them are really complex. Some of them might look cooler. They're acrylic or something. Some of them take 8 million screws to put together. Some of them, the paper is only 2 inches wide. But if I look at all of them and I have to say which one I think the goal for me is to remove nutrients and be the lowest maintenance. It isn't necessarily to be the prettiest option. If the goal is lowest maintenance and have it work and easy of install, Thieling.
Yeah.
It has a little barb thing. You just put your return right into the barb thing. The barbs are 3 different sizes, so it really doesn't even matter. One of them will fit.
Regulates the water level inside of its own body rather than the water level. Some of them you have to put into the filter stock chamber. When your filter stock chamber has to be specifically designed so that there's enough water that over the top, or enough room for water over the top that allows the mechanism to work. This is all self-contained.
Yeah, it has a little clip that can go on the side of non-Euro brace glass. It has a stand that just stands in there. And so this is how far I'm going to go with how much that I support this thing. Is rather than buying a plastic sump that has a bunch of filter socks in it, I would buy a 40-gallon breeder or a 20 long glass aquarium and throw this thing in the other side and probably some aqua mesh on the other side to capture some micro bubbles and call it a day.
I'm done.
It won't be as pretty as a super fancy plastic sump, but it'll cost probably about the same. And it'll perform way better.
Yeah.
I'll have the type of low maintenance mechanical filtration that pulls all of the hard turds and whole foods right out of the tank, and I don't have to worry about it anymore. So even though the glass 20 long or 40 breeder may not look as pretty as a trimmed out acrylic tank, I'll probably be happier with it over time, and they'll probably cost the same amount of money.
Function over form.
Function over form.
That was our core belief
on sumps.
Yeah, function over form, and bonus points if it is future proof. That was
What's
our
your
core
glass
belief.
boxes? Boom, boom, boom. There it is, man.
We'll jump to the next one because it fits right in here too on what matters most. You can use two compacts. You've got a primary. A lot of people have a primary, secondary drain. You can tune your drains to actually run kind of the same and run two compacts.
Yeah, you know what? I think you could even use, like if you had a one drain from the tank, there's no reason you couldn't just have two spouts as well. You might want to try to make sure it's divided up a little bit, but you can use two compacts. You also don't have to run them. Like you could have two returns, like one of them that goes through the filter and one of them that doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this is a system that has, probably going to put all of the water through the filter 2-3 times an hour. It has many times to catch this. So it doesn't necessarily have to go through it every single time.
Yep.
All right, some hard lessons, though, with filter socks. What's the first one?
First one we learned a hard lesson about filter socks is we didn't realize just how much socks were hurting the performance of the skimmer.
That one, I don't know if I'd be really curious to hear out of you guys if you didn't put that connection together either.
Never put that connection together.
Yeah, that if you're capturing all of the waste in those filter socks and you're doing a really good job of removing it, well, there's not much fuel for the skimmer anymore. The skimmer is not going to perform well, in which case you get a smaller skimmer that doesn't require as much fuel. Or I didn't catch that if you're not changing out the filter socks, that I kind of thought I break down a protein change or something in there and then my skimmer would get it. But the skimmer removes so many things before it gets to that point that you're depriving it from. It's not true, and I will tell you, the only thing you have to do to find out whether or not you believe this is true is go remove your filter socks from the little holes and then monitor how your skimmer performs and how much better you can get it to work.
You might be surprised. You might surprise yourself.
You might say, oh man, that changed the world the way that I thought about this. So hard lesson for me, again, I just, after decades of doing this, I didn't realize how non-maintained filter socks, actually maintained or non-maintained filter socks were hurting the performance of the skimmer, and I might want to size my skimmer to that in either direction.
Yeah, I would enjoy spending half as much money on a protein skimmer because I've got a double as effective pre-filter before it, a mechanical filter.
Yep. I don't know many people would say differently than that. Another hard lesson.
This one's you.
This one is me, man. The bristleworm thumb was a hard lesson for me, which is
reaching in the filter socks.
I reached in there one day and I grabbed the filter socks because the water was overflowing. They were totally clogged. I grabbed it and I pulled it out, and my full thumb was just covered in fuzz because there's so many bristleworms living in that filter sock. Dude, and it hurt for a month. I mean, I got them all out eventually, dude, but that is probably the number one reason why I hate filter socks. Me and filter socks aren't on talking terms. Right after that, consider when you grab them how you grab them, because you never know what might be living inside that thing. Usually there's a tab. Grab it by the tab.
I always broke the tab off because I needed to. It was easier to turn them inside out when I go wash them. Oh. So I'd cut that little tab piece out and then just leave myself to the wolves.
Here's the thing, dude. It's like one of those things. Just because I was lucky for a while, it's just because you're just waiting that day. I mean, there was lots and lots of times I changed out filter socks and never that problem. It was just that one time, bam, dude, and it hurt. All right, another hard lesson.
Hard lesson is filter socks and filter rollers might work too well, and that we hit that one a couple different ways, but to the point, so much so to the point that might render your existing protein skimmer obsolete or very inefficient.
Yeah, so it might work too well, and also in the essence that you don't have any nitrate and phosphate in your tank.
Could work too well, so where your refugium starts dying.
Yeah, so it's just really good. If you pull out the turds in food before they break down,
what's left?
Yeah, and so it won't get 100% efficiency, but you might find that this thing works. For me, it's funny. It's the same story as the refugium. We went into the refugium idea thinking, well, it's just kind of a partial thing, and then we found, done right, it works too well. Right? Well, so the same thing with the filter material. Sometimes, especially in conjunction with other good efforts, it might work too well. and it's super obvious why doing it poorly would have a totally different result than doing it in an ideal manner.
Yeah. Hard lesson. Don't buy a sump with socks if you don't want filter socks.
This is hard.
160 was one. You saw the video where we cut the thing off. We cut the filter socks off. We wanted to try that roller mat.
Yeah. If you don't
Actually,
plan
no, that
on,
was to expand for the refugium. We had the roller mat in place before.
If you don't plan on using the filter socks, just try to find a sump that doesn't have them. The problem is like, I guess the industry really hasn't caught up with this, and so a vast majority of them have filter socks.
What's a sump without filter sock holders?
A good performing skimmer sump is what it is.
It's a functional over form.
You know, the problem will be A, you're just wasting space, but B, the way they're designed that way is they're going to trickle in there and be super loud.
Mm-hmm.
So
if you don't use them, they're going to be loud.
I mean, I guess you could consider using the like mesh filter sock. They will probably catch some of the water and not make it as loud, and they don't really catch as much things in there. They only catch really big organisms in the mesh.
Yeah.
So it won't catch a broken down piece of food, but yeah, I think that if you don't want sump, there should be more options out there for sumps that don't have filter socks. Hopefully the sump manufacturers of the universe are hearing us and going to be brave enough to make one. Hopefully somebody will start making more and more of the fleece materials, because when you look at it, there's nobody that has used fleece material, manual or automatic, that wouldn't say there's no reason for filter socks to exist any longer.
I agree.
Yeah. All right, so what's next?